Alrighty, so let's look over this banner and the new character, of course, and determine whether or not you should summon. Obviously, the big kicker here is that there's a lot of rumors saying that the next banner is going to be the global anniversary banner because it normally happens at the beginning of March. I think the game originally came out on March 3rd, which means that if we're getting this banner on technically the 14th, night of the 13th into the 14th for me, that means our next banner should be on the 28th, which is the very end of November, or very end of February, which means that the next banner after that would be on the 14th, which would be way after. So the odds of them doing the global anniversary starting on the 28th of February is very likely. So we should be seeing confirmation on that sometime next week whenever the JP patch notes come out with the new banner and everything. So definitely be aware of that. That's something that is kind of integral. Like if you're a free-to-play player, don't have a whole lot of gems saved up, or just don't really have anything to spare at the moment, definitely recommend skipping this because I've been watching a lot of gameplay on the JP version of this king, and it really doesn't seem too great. It seems like that there's a couple of teams that you can actually make him work with, and I definitely plan on messing around with those teams and everything once we get them on global, because I will be doing live summons, but this will come out in the morning for me, so I should be doing live summons sometime tonight. So if you want to subscribe or anything like that, if you want to watch live summons, come by and hang out with me, feel free to subscribe, of course, so that way you can kind of do that. You should be notified and everything whenever I go live, I would imagine. But anyways, so the actual character himself, let's go over the actual character. So he is still going to be a debuffer like the original New Wings King was, which is definitely interesting. At the moment, the Goddess team really, I see one very seldomly, like every once in a while. I would say like maybe once a week I'll run into a Goddess team at the moment, but for the moment there's not really any cleansers in the meta at the moment. So the odds of you actually being able to get his like debuffs off and everything, probably pretty decent right now. Obviously you do have to worry about Meliodas, who has like a built-in cleanse with his passive, but overall I think now might be one of the best times that you could actually run this character. Who knows what it's going to look like in the future, especially if we end up getting some sort of Goddess team support or like Archangel support for the global anniversary, because a lot of people think it might be Mael, which would definitely bring Margaret back into the meta. So the actual character is a green unit compared to the blue old like New Wings King that we got for the, what was that? It was just a festival. I think it was like 20 million downloads or something like that originally. But either way, the passive is, for every fairy ally participating in battle, increases the hero's attack-related stats by 10%. And damage dealt by 10%. For every applicable ally, which in this case happens to be 7 Deadly Sins units that are anything but light or dark, which I actually really agree with. The fact that they're making this unit not being able to be ran with the new unit, it hinders him in a way because obviously the new units are really good, but I'm glad that he's not a support unit for the new units as well. It makes it to where they're not getting any sort of buffs from him, which is great because they already have so much support already, and they're just insane units on top of that. But he himself cannot be ran with him. Basically, like, you don't get any real reason to. But for every applicable ally, increases their basic stats by 8%, increases the hero's damage by 30% when attacking debuffed enemies, and then the applicable allies are what I said earlier. So the biggest disappointment with this is that he cannot be used in the backline. The old New Wings King actually does have a sub-slot, like, able passive, so you can technically throw him in the sub-slot, even though it's not really recommended, I guess. But if you could have ran him in the back and got the basic stat increase for the sins or something like that, it actually would have been super cool, but unfortunately it's not the case. His main cards are a single target poison card and an AoE weak point card. AoE weak point has been very sought after, I guess, in the meta over the past couple of months. There's been a couple of AoE weak point characters that have come out that people have really seen a lot of potential in. If you actually have his Holy Relic, which inflicts bleed for 2 turns when the hero deals damage with an all-target attack skill, so an AoE skill like the weak point, apparently bleed scales really interestingly. So additional damage equal to 90% of the damage dealt at the end of the enemy's turn. So if you hit really hard with this weak point skill, they're going to take an additional 90% of that damage as bleed damage at the end of their turn. The problem is, if they cleanse it off, like Melee probably isn't going to get hit by that, because, you know, all it takes is like 3 hits for him to be able to cleanse, and he can attack himself and cleanse. So Melee's probably going to be pretty hard to get this off on, but it does really decent damage. I've seen a couple of different videos where people are using interesting teams. The bleed damage actually goes off, does really, really nice damage. But the fact that it's on the end of the enemy's turn can be a little interesting. So it's not the greatest. It's not like Abyss. It's not going to go off before they attack or anything, but definitely kind of interesting. Speaking of Abyss, he does have the exact same ultimate as old New Wings King, so obviously he does have an Abyss effect. Kind of a little bit whaley, of course. Abyss is definitely something that scales really, really high, and is very, very good at like one turn, like wiping. If it's not on your turn, it'll flip around and kill them on their turn at high ultimate levels. But I don't know, he's definitely an interesting character. The fact that he wants to be ran with fairies to buff himself is weird and unfortunate, because there's not really a whole lot of good fairies in the game at the moment. And the fact that they want to run him with old school, I say old school, but like older, I guess, sins, because they're not going to be light or dark, can definitely be a little bit of a hindrance as well, because he's not actually getting a basic stat boost from that. You're buffing your allies' basic stats. So I don't know. Kind of an interesting character, to say the least. He's not like super good, but not super bad. Pretty middle of the road at the moment for the meta that we're in. So I think he could work, but it's going to be kind of like the Ragnarok team at the moment, I would say, where you're not going to be able to win every single match by any means, but when you do, it's going to be really fun, I think. So could be just a fun unit to use. Overall, let's look at the banner. It's okay. It's not great, of course. They're definitely trying to tempt you with a couple of seasonal characters. I definitely think the seasonal characters to get out of this are Jenna. If you don't have her, she's really nice for Belmoth Demon. The red Summer Deanne is in here, which is really nice if you want to, you know, just improve your performance for OG Demon. Definitely helps a lot in that regard. And then probably the Summer Merlin here is probably one of the most sought after characters, because she is incredibly good in the meta right now because of the attack seal. Surprisingly for me, I have not been able to pull Blue Hawk and Oslo, so maybe he's literally the last character that I need besides like the PvP exclusive like top 100 characters. But if I get this character, I would literally have the entire roster, which would be very cool, but he's really bad, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I'll be doing summons. I'm just probably going to do a one and done. Overall, I would say if you have extra gems to spend and you want to go for the seasonal banner, this is probably like the one seasonal banner a year that's really tough to summon on. Maybe the Christmas banner is also kind of tough to summon on sometimes, because the New Year's banner is always super hype. But this is a banner where you're like coming out of the New Year's stuff. There's a lot of crazy stuff, so you probably don't have a whole lot of gems. And then we're going into the new, like the global anniversary banner as well, which can be kind of a good one. So it's a tough one. If you have extra gems, obviously there's some niche characters on here that can be pretty useful, but overall I would say not really worth it. I don't really get a whole lot of use out of any of these characters except for maybe Deanne, maybe Zaneri. But other than those two, I don't use the rest of them very often. Maybe Summer Merlin can be helpful in PvP if you want to use her, but for me personally, I don't get enough use out of her to really say anything too much. So I don't know. There's my personal opinion. Let me know what your thoughts and opinions of the character and the banner are down below. Obviously, I know a lot of the people are just going to be saying it's easy skip, which it definitely is. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you guys tonight for live summons, and yeah, see you in the next one.